The pitch is hit in the air to deep center. Sizemore going back, away back, on the track, at the wall. It's gone! Oh, Georgie Juice one. Gardner. There goes the deep right. It is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a Gardy party. He plants one in the right field seats. Gardy goes yardy from Price. Swung on and hit in the air to deep left. That ball's high. It is far. It is gone. He's homered. Derek Jeter homers.
What is going on, baseball fans? We are back at it once again. Welcome to the Pinstripe Plunge Report, your Wednesday night home for all things New York Yankees and the biggest stories around Major League Baseball.
And we're not just rehashing box scores. We're breaking down the latest thoughts, theories, premonitions, you name it, from 161st Street and River Ave. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jeremy. And don't forget, we have our MLB mailbag section coming up tonight. And we want to hear everything from you. So whether it's Bronx banter, trade speculation, power rankings, hot takes, or anything else, we want to hear it all.
But before we dive in, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it these days, if you're watching on either of these, shoot us a follow, hit that repost button, ring that bell for notifications, and subscribe so that you get notified when we do new content like this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And check out our link tree. It's got all of our socials, our affiliate sponsorships, which help the show grow, along with our merchandise store, which we've put out some really hot new items that Jeremy himself has whipped up with his magic wand. And it's also got a $15 credit link to my Whatnot channel for my sports cards endeavor business that I'm running. So all good stuff there. Like I said, check it out and, you'll be happy.
Absolutely. So as we do every week, we're going to hit the leadoff spot. Now, as we look this week we would just want to bring a little bit of a highlight to somebody that Dave feels he forced into playing well for the New York Yankees, and that is Will Warren. Over Warren's last two starts, he's been absolutely incredible. When you look at what it meant for the New York Yankees, obviously we know going into this season there were a ton of injuries to the rotation. Will Warren wasn't likely going to be a part of the 26-man roster coming out of spring if all were healthy to start the year. They were not, and they found themselves in a position where they had to go to kind of that second and third tier of pitching staff. And Will Warren got off to a bit of a rough start, but in his last couple of starts, he's been absolutely incredible. And when we get to the 3 up, 3 down, just a little bit of a hint here, Will Warren is one of those guys that's doing well. So definitely stay tuned for that as we get more into it. But Dave, you texted me earlier about Warren. So just want to get your thoughts on what he's done recently for the Yankees.
I'm happy for him. I have a proven track record of when I say someone is performing badly, that they just turn it around and, do what they're supposed to do. Like Jason Dominguez, I was very critical of him earlier in the season. What happens about a week after we go live? Bang, he starts playing well. We suggest that Aaron Boone bats Cody Bellinger leadoff. What happens? Cody Bellinger bats leadoff the next day. 2 weeks ago, I said Will Warren needs to pull it together, and he must have heard my telepathic communication, and he mowed down the Rangers with 10 strikeouts yesterday. I'm kidding. I'm not saying any of this is connected. I just find it very strange how we have a habit of talking about this stuff, and then it comes to fruition. I don't know. Maybe we're good luck charms for the New York Yankees at this point. I have no idea. Yeah. We'll take full credit for this. Oh, yeah. From Yankees Nation, of course. But I'm glad to see the kids finally gotten on track. I can't imagine it's that easy being told that, hey, you got to fill the spot production of Luis Heel and Clark Schmidt, and then Marcus Stroman goes down. So you're asking a kid to carry the load of 3. I mean, if ideally it falls on the whole rotation, but this kid was an afterthought. He was thought of as a long reliever. I was starting to believe that we had another failed starter on our hands. Clearly, after the last several outings, that is not the case anymore. There's still a lot of season left. A lot could, hope to God doesn't go wrong, but could. But I'm glad he's making the most of his opportunity. Like David Cohen said yesterday, this is where guys that are afterthoughts make a name for themselves, whether it's someone not performing or it's somebody losing their job.
Yep.
So glad it's working out for him. Mowing down guys like the Rangers have in their lineup is not an easy task. And especially getting out of that bases loaded jam in the fifth was just nuts.
Yeah.
So he was definitely Houdini there. So all good things.
Yeah, especially when you think back to his last start prior to yesterday's start against the Rangers, against the Mariners, who have been hitting much better this year than they have in the past few years. And he got 9 strikeouts on them. So back-to-back weeks with new career highs in strikeouts. So definitely a big improvement from Will Warren for the Yankees. So we're going to head to the heart of the order.
See ya. That one's driven deep to left field. There it goes. See ya. Back on the track at the wall. They've done it again. Track, wall, see ya. The bat worked. High fly ball. See ya. A grand slam for Aaron Judge. They keep on doing it. See ya. High fly ball at the wall. See ya. 3 home runs for Aaron Judge. See ya. The Yankees' 9th home run of the day. They did it again.
All right. So as we get to the heart of the order, the Bronx beatdown section, if you will, obviously, if you saw the thumbnail for today's episode, it kind of gave a little bit of a hint as to what we're going to spend the majority of our time discussing here. For those that may not have seen it, this was the thumbnail for today's episode. So we're just going to kind of preface this, right? Obviously, the Subway Series just took place. We'll break down some of the numbers from that series momentarily, but when you look at kind of the big overarching theme of this past weekend with the Subway Series, it was all about Juan Soto, right? Everything from both sides of coverage, all of New York was talking about it. It's the Subway Series, so it's a big deal here, for both fan bases. But it was all about Soto, right? His departure from the Yankees, how much of a big thing that was in the offseason. And then how he has not yet translated to playing like Juan Soto so far this year. Now, I want to preface before we get into all the details and before I let Dave go off and say, I think Juan Soto is going to be fine. I think by the end of the year, he's going to be more in line with what we've seen him be throughout the course of his entire career, right? This is a guy who, as I've said many, many times on this channel, this is the modern day Ted Williams. This is someone who knows his strike zone as well as anybody can know their strike zone, especially in today's game. So I think that he's going to be fine, right? But in the interim, because the New York media market is the way that it is, everything that he does is a story. So, Dave, your thoughts, early thoughts, before we get into kind of specifics on the whole Subway Series and how it played out.
Well, like Jeremy said, I believe he's going to be fine as well. If we look at, how he started the season with San Diego, or did he play a full season there? A season and a half, or was it just a half a season?
I'll pull it up right now.
I'm pretty sure it was a year and a half he was there. Half of 21 and then half of 22 and then all 23, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
So he started off with a slow start in 2023 in San Diego. Started off at a slow pace with the Yankees and then heated up towards the end. That's how he's been the last 2.5 seasons. Now, getting into the real meat of it, can we stop talking about this? The guy was here for a year, and y'all make it sound like he was here for 15. You guys make it sound like Derek Jeter betrayed us and went to the Cleveland Indians. Like, almost happened. Enough. Like, I get it. Yeah, Juan Soto's not here. I don't care. He was here for a year. I was pissed off about it for maybe a day and a half, and then I got over it. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I do feel like, if the reports are true that he listened to his family because his family wanted him to go to the Mets because they were all going to get free stuff, well, then that's on him for taking bad advice from somebody that's not his agent. Plain and simple. I'm done talking. You didn't see all this hoopla when Mike Trout signed his $420.5 million contract in LA with the Angels. That wasn't a story. There wasn't this big of a story when Shohei signed with the Angels for the first 6 years of his career. So why is this a big deal? I get it. We wanted him to stay, but you guys got to look at what we got out of it from him leaving. Devin Williams, Cody Bellinger, Max Fried, like that.
Paul Goldschmidt.
And Paul Goldschmidt, who somehow gets lost in the shuffle because, well, he's old. But
I like it this weekend, though.
And it's giving Jason Dominguez an opportunity to play. It's giving Trent Grisham an opportunity to finally show his potential after being, a fourth outfielder / failed starting center fielder. Like, just get over it, man. He left. He's gone. He's not coming back. And if he regrets his decision, well, guess what? Karma's a bitch. Plain simple English. Karma is a bitch. He chased the money. And I don't understand. I talked to Brad Osmus about this a couple of years ago with the Bronx Muchachos. And he said to me that he will never understand why guys chase money over winning. Still to this day, the bench coach of the New York Yankees does not understand that mentality. You look at the course of history of guys signing bad contracts with mediocre teams. Chris Bryant in Colorado with that 8-year, $187 whatever $million contract. Ian Desmond, prior to that, $75 million over 6 years with Colorado. Giancarlo Stanton, $320 million with Miami back for 15 years. Shohei, Mike Trout. I'll even go back a little bit further. Pudge Rodriguez, a 4-year, $40 million contract with Detroit in 2004. I will never understand why guys sign bad contracts with subpar teams and then complain about them being in a crappy situation. Bro, you signed the piece of paper. No one put a gun to your head and forced you to sign that document. You did. Now sleep in the bed that you made. But for this fan base needs to get over this. Like, enough is enough. Let's just move on. Let's enjoy what we have. We're having a great season. We're still complaining about getting dumped at the altar by our ex-girlfriend. Like, I'm over it. I'm done. Like, he's not coming back.
Yeah.
And to a point, like, I saw a post-game interview that he did after the third game, and they asked him if the pressure was getting to him, and he's like, what like, he's getting annoyed by this. But yet then he plays into it with tipping the hat to the crowd and trying to talk the judge. Like, dude, you iced this team out, as you said in our text messages, in the deepest, darkest hour that this team experienced within 5 minutes of the final out of the World Series. He's talking about the Yankees in the past tense. Like, the fact that the team even spoke to him at batting practice blew my mind. Like, I thought the rest of the team was just giving him the cold shoulder, telling him to,
like the Blazer creatures did,
piss off, essentially. But yeah, this is ridiculous. He's in Queens. Let him go be miserable for the last 15 years of his career, and sayonara.
Yeah, I think for me, again, just like with you, I'm tired of the narrative. And like you said, it wasn't the same way because this was a one-year guy. We knew when we acquired him before 2024, this was a mercenary. This was a one-year deal. This was going to be a guy that was going to come in. He was going to put up huge numbers because he was playing for a payday. Not only that, he was going to have somebody protecting him in the lineup like he never had before. And I think that if the reports are to be believed, right, that he went there because his family was getting all this extra perks and bonuses, this, that, and the third. Like you said, he's got to sleep in the bed that he made, right? And for Yankee fans to feel like they were betrayed by this guy. I love the theatrics of the bleacher creatures turning their back, right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Hilarious. I thought that was absolutely just theater.
Perfect.
Right? You know, the booing him, he's going to get booed worse than Jose Altuve gets booed, right?
Oh, I don't know about that, bro. That's a high bar. That's a high bar.
I don't know. I think the crowd noise this weekend, I think, I
don't know.
Because you figure, right, especially with the way that the Astros are playing compared to how the Mets are viewed right now, they're looked at as a team that is fading away in the Astros, right? The Mets are looking as a team that was going to be a better contender, a better spot, which is what all the lies that he was saying as far as why he went to the Mets over the Yankees, because he felt like he could win more. But nevertheless, this is going to be a guy who's going to get booed relentlessly whenever he comes to the Bronx, right? But at the same point, we had him for 1 year.
Yeah, man.
Right? Like you said, we almost lost Jeter. We almost lost Bernie Williams to the Red Sox.
That deal was done too.
Talk about a betrayal, a stab in the back. This was not that. This was absolutely not that. Would we have loved to see Juan Soto in the Bronx for 15 years? Sure. That combination of Judge and Soto could have done magical things like Ruth and Garrick, right? That was the pace that they were on last year.
Yeah.
But losing him, honestly, if we are being legitimately honest with ourselves, was the best thing that could have happened to us.
Yeah, because him leaving, like I said, opened up. If he were to stay here, Spencer Jones is traded, without a doubt, traded. And that was the whole thing when they were talking about getting Garrett Crochet, that Spencer Jones would have to go. And I was continuously saying, the only way you trade Spencer Jones is if you have signed Juan Soto to a massive extension. That is the only way I am trading away Spencer Jones. You don't trade your top, second-ranked best prospect in the system for the hope of re-signing this mercenary in the offseason. Because what a bad look that would have been had they lost Jones and then lose Soto. Brian Cashman would have to have some serious explaining to do to the fan base along with Hal Steinbrenner. So, the fans need to look at it through the lens of what would be the chain reaction if this had happened, right? So,
yeah, and I saw a post following the Subway Series online that said, the 4 guys that we acquired with the money that would have been spent on just Juan Soto all impacted us winning the Subway Series this weekend, right? Mm-hmm. Cody Bellinger's grand slam. Paul Goldschmidt it was absolutely perfect. Paul Goldschmidt's incredible defense on top of what he's been able to do offensively for this team. Devin Williams looking like a lockdown closer again. And
let's pump the brakes a little bit.
We'll get there. But I'm just saying, in his last several outings, he has looked incredibly strong, like the guy that we anticipated we were acquiring, right?
Yeah.
And then Max Fried has been absolutely incredible all season. So the amount of money that we would have spent on just getting Soto and really nothing else, because there's no way that you could have gone out and given $760 million to one player and think that Hal Steinbrenner was going to do more, right?
Yeah, and it kept Max Fried here for 8 years.
Yep.
So for under $30 million a season, what?
Right.
They got Max Fried for cheap.
All compared.
That's only because he was injured the season prior to last.
Yep.
So
yeah. So for me, I think that it's obviously going to be continually a story because of the New York media, because the two teams are playing in the same place, because of the fact that it's never happened where somebody went from the Yankees to the Mets. Like, the Yankees always get their guy. That's the narrative around there. So it was such a wave and a change because they left the Yankees and went to the Mets. It's a whole new thing. Obviously, Steve Cohen has money to throw at whoever, right? But the Yankees were able to pivot in such a way that they're a better team this year than what they were when they went to the World Series last year.
Yeah. And the other thing too, this isn't the first time, I remember when Curtis Granderson left the Yankees and went to the Mets for the 2015 season. And he's over there saying like, "Oh, the real New Yorkers are Mets fans." I'm like, I'm sorry, what? No, stop, shut up. You're the redheaded stepchild of the Giants and Dodgers saying screw you and going to California.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the media is just trying to create the Jake Burger tied it up, son of a bitch. I feel like the New York media is just trying to create this rivalry that just doesn't exist. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. Like, us Yankees fans don't wake up in the morning and think about the Mets. Like, we wake up in the morning thinking about the damn Red Sox and the friggin' Astros.
Like, I think back to the Captain documentary series where Jeter was like, they're
just the Mets. Like, they're just there. You know?
So, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, they're going to be a competitive team. You know, they fell out of first place right now in the National League East. And we'll talk about the divisions in a little bit. But, yeah, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up about this Soto debate and saga before we kind of close things out is the idea of this lack of hustle and enthusiasm, right?
Uh-huh.
So when you look at his numbers, they're very similar in terms of his sprint speed, right? So when you check out what he did last year compared to this year, he's not running any slower necessarily, right? There's obviously the last game of the Subway Series, the first game of the Red Sox series, there was a couple of instances where you could clearly see he wasn't hustling. But he has those moments, right? I think back to Robinson Cano. This was a guy who would also have those moments where he looked lackadaisical, running the bases. And I remember, Joe Girardi was asked about it at the time, and he's like, listen, this guy plays 160, 161, 162 games a year. If he's got to, kind of halfway it to first base on a couple of grounders that are regularly routine plays to be able to be in there every single day, then that's what has to happen. And, Carlos Mendoza obviously kind of echoed similar sentiments, but when you look at it in terms of the story that was this weekend, it seems like a bigger deal, right? But for me, I think that it's more so, and the narrative that I continue to hear is about the fact that he's not doing the Soto shuffle. And that's the big story coming out of, Mets camps, that's what they're missing is the Soto shuffle. Like,
oh my
if
God,
he started to hit like he feels like he's capable of, I'm sure it's coming back. But for that to be the narrative story is just kind of comical to me.
Like, Mets fans had this unrealistic expectation, right? They thought Juan Soto was this magical unicorn that single-handedly was going to bring them to the promised land. It's like, you guys don't even have a starting rotation. You have a failed closer as your ace. How's that working out for you? Like, they come into the season with no starting rotation. They waste $21 million on a busted, broken starter in Frankie Montas for whatever reason. I still can't wrap my head around this one, and it's been 3 months. But it takes more than one person to build a city. Like, just because Juan Soto signed for an exorbitant amount of money doesn't mean that he's taking you to the promised land single-handedly. So, and that's where I'll end on this. Like I said, I'm done talking about it. It's quite honestly annoying.
Yeah.
And just,
now, one thing that I will push back on with your whole thing with their rotation is actually not bad. It's a lot of mixed pieces and guys that you're not expecting.
It's weird.
It's sure, yeah, it's definitely a weird rotation, but they're actually getting the job done. A lot of their issue right now is coming from a lack of consistency in the offense.
The defense is killing them too.
Yeah, had the Mets broadcast on earlier against the Red Sox before the Yankee game started, and they were comparing the March, April beginning of the season to May so far, and basically everything except the strikeout percentage is down across the board. And obviously you don't want your strikeout percentage to go up. So I think that right now the Mets are just trying to figure out who they are, and I think that's also going for Soto. We saw him have not the greatest start when he got traded from the Nationals to the Padres, like you said. And I think that by season's end, he's going to be, close to what we expect him to be. But let's not forget when Francisco Lindor first got to the Mets, he also struggled that first
year.
He
was atrocious.
Yeah, but he figured it out, right? So Soto's going to be there for a long time. He'll figure it out. But for Yankee fans to, have been all up in arms because he left, he was always going to.
Yeah.
We at no point did I really expect him to come back. He was going to whoever was going to give him the highest dollar. He's a Scott Boras client. That's what they all do. 9 out of 99% of them are going to whoever is giving the highest dollar.
Yep.
Period. It could be a dollar difference, but that's where they're going. So at no point did I really expect him to be coming back to the Yankees.
Nope.
So as we do in this section, we run through some of the numbers here. The Yankees going into today were playing very, very well. And they were 28-19, 7-3 over their last 10 games with a plus 93 in the run differential column. Obviously, a very good start to the season. We want to keep this winning pace going and continue to build on it. As we go through, we're going to recap the Mets series. Obviously, 2-1. The Yankees won that series. 16 runs offensively, 23 hits. We had no errors in that series. We had 20 strikeouts, a stolen base, 14 RBIs, 19 walks, 27 men left on base. Again, this continues to be a big problem for this team, is leaving a lot of guys on base where we could be absolutely blowing teams out and we find ourselves, winning by slim margins at times. And obviously we'll have those days where we do get those big offensive outputs, but overall, it's a big concern there. And runners in scoring position was 7 for 26, which is a 269 average. 7 runs given up, all earned, 14 hits, no home runs, 15 walks, and 28 strikeouts. Then obviously we started the series against the Rangers. We only had the one game prior to our stream here tonight. So very good offensive night for the Yankees. 5 runs, 9 hits, 6 strikeouts, a stolen base, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 5 left on base. So again, continuing to be a problem there. And then 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. 2 runs given up by Ian Hamilton in that 9th inning. Otherwise, it would have been a shutout. 8 hits, home run, 2 walks, and 14 Ks, 10 of which were Will Warren's. All right, so we're going to hit the captain's corner now.
Swung on that. There it goes. Deep left. It is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a Judgian blast. Now the pitch is swung on. A high fly to deep right center. It's gone. Derek Jeter hit one over the Modell sign in right center. All rise. Here comes El Capitani. Homers.
So as we go through this section, we take a look and see what the captain is doing, and then we kind of go down memory lane on this day. And as we go through, this is through yesterday. Aaron Judge is obviously on an absolutely ridiculous pace. When you look at what he's been able to do this season, it is an MVP caliber season without a doubt. And as we go through, 403, 491, 762 slash line with 16 home runs, 43 RBIs, 45 runs scored, 73 hits, 30 walks, 138 total bases, 3.9 baseball reference WAR, 4.3 FWAR with a 252 OPS and a 248 weighted runs created plus. So no doubt about it, Aaron Judge is putting up another historic level season, and it's going to be a fun ride if he can keep this kind of pace up. Obviously, hitting 400 is going to be something that is hard to do for the entire season. We haven't seen it for many, many, many years. Ted Williams at 406 was the last guy to do it back in 1941, I believe was the year. So no doubt about it. If Judge can chase that all season long, it's going to become a bigger and bigger story as we continue to go through. And for him to be the prolific home run hitter that he is and have a slash line this high, this late into the year is already a story in and of itself. So definitely a fun time to be a Yankee fan and a fan of Aaron Judge. And as we also take a look on this day in Yankee history, some of the previous captains, Derek Jeter, In 2007, went 1 for 3 with an RBI and a walk against the Boston Red Sox in a game the Yankees won 6-2. Don Mattingly in 1988 went 1 for 4 with a run scored against the then Oakland Athletics in a game the Yankees won 3-2. And Thurman Munson in 1970 went 0 for 2, but had a walk, a strikeout, and a stolen base against the then Washington Senators, who later became the Texas Rangers, the team who ironically were playing tonight.
Weird.
Yeah, I found that very funny as I was going through and doing the research for this this particular episode, that's who they ended up playing. So thought that was pretty fun. All right, let's hit the roll call.
Can we get the roll call started? Aaron Judge! Aaron Judge! Yankee baseball! Yankee baseball!
So as we go through, taking a look at some of the latest news and notes around the roster, we've gotten some slight updates about some injured guys, and Giancarlo Stanton is said to be nearing the end game of his running program, and Jazz is about to start hitting and potentially going out on a minor league rehab assignment in the coming weeks. So Dave, your thoughts on what this team is going to look like in a couple of weeks if we can get these guys back?
Man. Well, the easy kill, so to speak, when Jazz comes back is Pablo Reyes, thanks for your services, but goodbye.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see Cabrera get transferred to 60-day IL when Giancarlo is about to come back to get him on the active roster. As far as that chess game maneuvering, I don't know what you do. Oswald Peraza's out of options.
I think the other guy that gets sent down is Vivas. So I think.
Oh yeah, Vivas. Yeah, but then you're juggling what to do with Ben Rice at that point. It'll work itself out. But yeah, I mean,
for sure. Yeah. I feel like it always ends up, as Girardi used to say, you know, these things tend to work themselves out. But I read an interesting article today that said both J.C. Escar, who we've seen play third base already this year, but also Ben Rice have been fielding grounders at third base. So very interesting idea there to have him play third base and fill in at that position. Obviously, we know he came up as a catcher. He's learning first base at the major league level. But it's interesting if they start to try to play him and have him work out at third base as a potential way to keep him and get Giancarlo Stanton's bat into the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Like I said, it's going to work somehow, some way. Ben Rice is not going back to AAA. He's done well above enough to stay here. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. But I mean, damn, that firepower of offense that you're gonna have if these guys all come back healthy and stay that way.
I mean,
that's scary, bro. I mean,
for sure.
My God, you're talking about Ben Rice coming off the bench. Like, how many other teams in baseball wish they had a bench dude with his power? I mean, my God. So
yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy when you think about it. What they're going to be capable of doing with that lineup. We know that our lineup against left-handed pitching is a little short right now, and obviously a guy like Stanton coming back will make, you know, leaps and bounds above that when he returns, as long as he returns in a healthy way. But definitely an interesting idea there to where we could see this lineup potentially go to with those two bats coming back into the lineup. So as we go through in this section as well, we go through our 3 up, 3 down. 3 guys that are playing well, 3 that aren't, and 1 to be on the lookout for. So it's a consistent theme here. Obviously, the captain, Aaron Judge, is doing incredible things this year. This past week has actually been his worst week on this countdown list, and those numbers are absolutely still ridiculous. if you went through an entire season with a 313, 421, 563 slash line, you're
That's a
putting up
great
MVP.
season.
That's a great slash line. And yet, for Judge, this is a down week.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane to think that, right? Now, a guy who is having a down week for sure is that of Anthony Volpe.
Yeah.
So we saw Volpe hit a triple in today's game. We've seen him have a couple of extra base hits in the last week or so with those couple of doubles. But nevertheless, this isn't what you want from a guy who is consistently hitting fifth in your lineup right now. I don't understand Boone's lineup construction ever. But when you have these kind of numbers over the last week, that's clearly not a guy that should be hitting in the middle.
Sit him down. Give him a breather. Like, I don't understand why they – since he's set foot on a major league field, they run him out there every single day. But then they'll preach load management to Judge, Stanton, Goldschmidt, everybody else. That's not named Anthony Volpe. Like, what? Because the kid's 23 years old, he doesn't get tired?
So's Dominguez.
And same thing with J-Dom. Like,
and that's a guy they're sitting every other
day.
A
day off.
Yeah.
For the love of God, you're going to burn this kid out before he's 27.
Yeah.
If you keep doing this.
I saw a post a few weeks ago on X about Volpe and how when he has a day off, his numbers upon returning are significantly better than when he has this stretch of not getting any time off his feet. And
imagine that. Weird.
You have a guy like Peraza, who is an incredible glove that you can just plug in. I mean, I don't understand why they don't just, it doesn't have to be every day, every other day, but every 6, 7, 8 games or so, give the kid a day off and see what his numbers do at that point. So, but we'll see. So the second up this week is that of the guy who gave us the victory in the Subway Series, and that's Cody Bellinger. The slash line is Judgian with 533, 611, and 1067 slug, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 8 hits, 2 doubles, 4 runs scored, and 3 walks. No doubt about it. This guy has been, since we called him out on this show, another casualty of this show of heading into and playing well after that.
But it works.
It has worked. It has worked. It's kind of crazy, but it has worked. And so he's been stepping up big time, and it's definitely helping this team continue to win ball games. Now, the guy that is consistently in the lineup next to him, or in place of him, I should say, in center field is that of Trent Grisham as our second down this week. Trent's still been walking. Obviously, he's got 4 walks, a 400 on base percentage, but we're not seeing much in the way of impact from him, both batting average and slugging wise over the last week. Obviously, this is a guy who has been an everyday starter. And for us, for the most part of this year, he's been an everyday starter. Obviously, there have been times where this has kind of been what he is, a guy that's going to work a good at bat, who's going to be able to work that walk and get on base that way. But there's going to be times where his offense is going to take a dip. And I think that the more that teams get a book on him as far as how well he's been doing this year, we're going to see numbers like this from time to time. So hopefully he can snap out of it as well. But there's no doubt about it that this is going to be a guy who we are going to count on for better or for worse this year. This is going to be a guy who's very important for this team. And our third up, as we kind of led off the show with, is that of Will Warren. In his last 2 starts combined in this, a 1.69 ERA, a FIP of 0.37, a 43.2% strikeout rate, and a slash line against of 220, 273. And yeah, I don't know what happened with those numbers there, but it's 268, 268 with 19 strikeouts over that stretch in those last 2 starts. Again, the last 2 games that Will Warren has pitched, he has surpassed his career high in strikeouts for each game. Our third down is our starting catcher, and that's Austin Wells. Not a good slash line, obviously. This is a guy who's very important to what the Yankees are doing. This is a guy who is playing essentially every 5-6 games in a row. Again, another guy that may be a benefit to get him off his feet a little bit more often. Obviously, we know load management is a big thing now in today's game, especially when it comes to catchers and the wear and tear of that. Obviously, the pitching staff loves throwing to Wells, but JC Escarra is no slouch behind the plate either. So this is a guy that may benefit from a day or so off to kind of reset his approach.
And you got Ben Rice you can throw in there too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's another way of getting
three catchers
to the lineup. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot more questions defensively for Rice, which may be why they don't really plug him in there except for blowout games. But, you know, it's still an opportunity to get his bat in the lineup, give Wells a chance to kind of refocus in. Because, again, 5 strikeouts in a week may not seem like a great amount, but it is definitely more than what you want. So,
I mean, and God forbid an injury happens to Wells. Like, you need to get Rice experience behind the plate during a real game situation other than just a mop-up reliever role. I hate to put it in those terms, but that's basically what he did out in Oakland or Sacramento, excuse me. You got to get him reps behind the plate because God forbid something happens to either Wells or Escarra. Now he has to step in and either be the backup or the starting catcher.
Yep.
So,
and to be honest, when you look at these numbers, Ben Rice is our guy to be on the lookout for.
I mean, yeah.
Like this may be a guy you want to plug into that spot.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. But obviously, this is a guy who has really transformed his game this year. This is somebody that every Yankee fan is pulling for and rooting for. He's playing the game with that childlike emotion and passion and love. So we love seeing that kind of enthusiasm on the young man's face. So it definitely is infectious to the clubhouse because you see them pulling for him every time he hits one out. This team is up and, you know, roaring and cheering for him. So,
well, fun fact about Ben Rice: he grew up in Cohasset, Massachusetts, which is out near the Cape. A Yankees fan in Red Sox territory, like myself. So, you know, me being from Rhode Island, I know what that feels like. So I understand why this kid plays with the emotion that he plays with because he's living out a childhood dream. I can't wait to see him in action against the Red Sox. That's going to be amazing to watch.
Yep.
So little tidbit there.
Definitely a fun time there as well. So now, speaking of the Red Sox, we're going to hit around the American League spotlight. So as we go through this particular day, I put together some very interesting numbers, right? So in looking at this division, I saw a post on Instagram a couple of weeks ago that was saying some bold claims that you wouldn't believe are happening right now in baseball. And it said that the American League East was the worst division. And obviously, as somebody who has seen this division be what it's been for the last decade, it was hard to believe that accurate statement. So in kind of looking and crunching some numbers, it absolutely is an accurate statement. And it's kind of crazy to think so. So as I went through to look at the divisional battle, heading into today, the Yankees in the AL East were the only team above 500. The Red Sox were at 500 heading into today, but the only team that was above 500 in their division. Every other division had at least 2 that were above 500, and most had at least 3 that were at 500 or better. The AL East was the only one that didn't.
Yeah.
So
let's think about this for a second, right? So Red Sox are somewhat in a weird quasi rebuild, reload kind of thing where their GM is trying to make this team, mold this team in his own identity. So there's that. Then you got the Rays, who are displaced out of their home stadium, playing most of their games now on the road because of the weather here in Florida. And they have no starting pitching of any kind. The Baltimore Orioles just fired Brandon Hyde and replaced him with their third base coach, who has zero coaching experience, to my knowledge, as a manager. And the Blue Jays they're just the Blue Jays. They spent all their money on Vlad Jr., and there's that. So,
yeah. But what surprised me the most was the fact that they were the only division like that, right? Because we know Colorado's a terrible team. Pittsburgh is a terrible team this year. And you expected those divisions, especially you think of the Central, especially the last few years, as a division that was a bunch of bottom feeders. But that's not the case this year, right? So in doing some numbers, the American League East has the worst winning percentage as a division. So when you go through 113 in wins, 126 losses, a winning percentage of 473 as a division. The next worst division is the National League Central, who have a winning percentage of 492. So you're talking 20 points worse is the American League East, that was once called the American League Beast by most of our compatriots in this division, as being the toughest division in baseball.
Yeah, well, at the time, most of this decade, okay, 4 out of the 5 teams in this division have had winning records well above 500. You always either had the Red Sox at the bottom, or the Rays, or the Orioles, or the Blue Jays. It's always been one or the other, or the Yankees, or damn near close to it in 2008. There's always been that 1 out of the 5 that have always been in the basement. This is the first time that I can recall of there only being one really winning team in the AL East. So,
yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, in looking at the numbers for this division compared to the others, the American League Central only has the White Sox as a team that's under 500. The Angels and A's are under 500 in the West. The National League East has the Nationals and Marlins that are under. The National League Central has the Reds, after losing today, fall under 500 because they were at 500 yesterday. The Brewers and the Pirates are also under 500 in that division. And then only the Rockies are under 500 in the NL West. So it just kind of astounded me how a division that was, and even going into this year, the only team that really was looked at to have question marks was Tampa, and that was due to being, as you said, displaced because of their stadium situation. So it was kind of crazy to me to see the collapse of the Orioles, to see the inconsistency of the Red Sox, the inconsistency of the Blue Jays, and it's kind of wild to think that this division that has predominantly been such a strong division to be so weak this year. And I know that a lot of conversation last year that the American League itself was weak, and that's how the Yankees got to the World Series. But, this year there's just a lot more winning that is happening around baseball. And when you look at this particular season, it's just kind of wild to me to see this division playing out the way that it has.
Well, when you only got one team out of 5 with a winning record, the math's gonna math. So
definitely,
yeah,
the math is gonna math on that one.
I mean, what are you gonna do? And Tim Hill just got out of the bases loaded jam in the 6th.
Yeah, very, very neat on that one. All right, let's go around the horn.
Ground ball. Alex Rodriguez steps on second. Go to second for 1. On to first. It's the around the horn triple play.
So as we look around the league, you just brought it up about Brandon Hyde being let go by the Baltimore Orioles. He was actually the 3rd manager already fired this year. Bud Black with the Rockies and Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Earlier this week, I put together a video essay series on that called Managerial Mayhem. So it is the channel. It is linked in the description below on this video on the YouTube side of things. So definitely check that out. it's interesting to me that we're seeing 3 teams that have already done this before kind of that early season check-in, which is Memorial Day. That to me was one of the most astounding parts of seeing 3 different managers fired, especially going into this year. Obviously, all 3 of those teams have very different expectations, and I kind of break that down in that particular video. So if you haven't checked it out, like I said, on the YouTube side of things, it is linked below. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up in terms of all of Major League Baseball was an article that I read earlier today about the electronic strike zone. The idea is, very much moving and picking up steam about coming to Major League Baseball. So I've never talked to you about the electronic strike zone, Dave, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the idea of whether it be robo-umps calling the entire game or the challenge system that we saw in spring training. What are your thoughts on the idea as a whole?
I am very much in favor of the challenge system. Like, I live in Northern Florida, so I go to a lot of the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp games, which is the AAA affiliate of the Miami Marlins, and saw it in action last year, and it is very accurate. And if you haven't seen the latest blow up between Walker Buehler of the Boston Red Sox and I forget who the hell was behind the plate, this needs to happen immediately. Obviously, it's going to be a very highly contested item during the CBA negotiations, which hopefully gets resolved by the end of this year, because if not, well, we don't have any baseball next year, and hello, 2021 all over again. It needs to happen. The umpire union has gone unchecked for so damn long, it is not even funny, and it's about time that these guys get held accountable. I'm not saying the job is easy. I'm really not, but that strike 3 call on Juan Soto was strike 3, and I'm the biggest Red Sox hater I know. I hate them with every inch of my being, but that was a strike. It was at the knees, and Walker Buehler had every right to get upset, and the umpire antagonized him. I get it. Yeah. You can't challenge balls and strikes, but you don't take your mask off and confront a player like that, expecting them not to clap back and tell you to get bent, for a lack of better term.
And Mike Estabrook.
Yeah, Mike Estabrook. Okay. Like, this needs to happen. Look how long Aaron Judge has been getting strike 3 called at his shoelaces. This is not okay. I feel like there's still a lot of ex-disciples of the Angel Hernandez school for umpiring, and it needs to be eradicated from the sport, because you're going to lose your legitimacy of a sport if you let this continue any further, because this is going to determine outcome of games. This is going to, how would you feel if your team was in the World Series and you had an incident like what happened with Buehler the other day, cost you Game 7 of the World Series because that pitch was called a ball instead of strike 3? Like, there are so many instances where, like, the umpire controls the outcome of the game, plain and simple. And if they're able to do whatever the hell they want and go unchecked, well, who's to say they can't be influenced to throw a game for money? That, to me, I think is the biggest threat to the sport. Not players betting on games, but umpires being leveraged by outside sports betting agencies to throw games to make them money. That's what I would be more concerned of if I'm the commissioner of Major League Baseball than friggin' players gambling.
Yeah, we spoke about Pete Rose and debated last week. So if you did not check out last week's episode of the Pinstripe Plunge Report, make sure you check that out. I'll leave links to that after the show in the description as well. But when you look at it, Pat Holberg was fired by the Umpires Association because of his involvement with potential betting scenarios in terms of sharing an account with a friend that was on his phone. So things like that, like you said, that is something that is a very slippery slope when it comes to, gambling influence and how Major League Baseball umpires can be, potentially affected by some of those things.
What happened in the NBA back in the mid-2000s? That referee that got popped.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. It can have a very, very big, long-lasting impact. And I agree with you. I think that I'm very much in favor of the challenge system. I think that what we saw from that during spring training, for anybody that wasn't necessarily familiar with it beforehand, it's not something that takes a long time. We've seen with the pitch clock, games have dropped about 35 minutes worth from just as 2021 to 2025. 35 minutes just gone overnight, essentially, with the pitch clock from games. So if we get a couple of extra seconds because of challenging a pitch, and it did not take very long at all, I think that it is in the best nature for the sport and the best advantage for the sport to be able to get these things right. You know, obviously the blown perfect game from Armando Galarraga was one of the biggest facilitators for replay. And I think that we're going to see the implementation of the challenge system for strikes, because obviously, you know, everybody talks about not wanting to remove the human element from, you know, home plate umpires being able to call pitches. That's fine. Cool. Let's go. But if we can at least challenge on those pitches that are clearly egregious, that to me is something that definitely needs to happen across baseball.
And to put a nail in this, there should be some kind of like, there already is a rating system as far as like whether they're hitter or pitcher friendly, but there needs to be a rating system like they have in the KBO. In the KBO, if you're that bad of an umpire, you get banished to the minor leagues and you never come back to their version of the major leagues. So there needs to be a tracking system somewhere where they track certain umpires. And if your rating drops below a certain point, like goodbye, like you're gone and you never come back.
Well, and that's the crazy part, because they do have a rating system, which is how the umpires get graded in terms of their own association. But instead of holding the umpires that are good at certain things and leaving them there, right? So the umpiring crew, for those that may not know, rotate around as they go through. So the guy who's the home plate umpire today will be at third base the next day, you know, tomorrow. The following day, he'll be at second. The following day, he'll be at first. And that's how it goes through. But realistically, with having the grades that they have on these umpires, they know who's a good home plate umpire. They know who's a good base umpire. So leave them there. That should be their defined spot. And obviously, home plate umpiring duties are very taxing on the umpire. But nevertheless, it is something that is very well known. They get graded on these things. And one of the other things that I think that needs to happen is that if we do not get this challenge system put into play, umpires need to have to answer for those calls, right? Obviously, players have to answer after games. Managers have to answer for things after games. And to me, so should umpires. And for those that may not be watching the Yankee game, Jake Berger just hit another home run. So it's 2-1 right now in favor of the Rangers. So as we kind of bring this to a close, we're about to walk it off.
Jeter hits it into right. Back at the wall. Game over. As Boone hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series. Boone, a hero in Game 7.
Swung on and hit in the air to deep left field. That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a game-winning walk-off 3-run home run by Aaron Judge.
That one's drilled to left field. Is it high enough? See ya! A walk-off grand slam, and the Yankees win. Judge hits 60, and the Yankees win in walk-off fashion.
So we just want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight on the Pinstripe Plunge Report here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. If you're checking us out on the YouTube side of things, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the bell for post notifications, as it truly does help us continue to grow and build this baseball community here. We are trying to build out this fan base as best we can, and you're doing so continues to help us by hitting that like and subscribe button. And in the description of this video on the YouTube side of things, make sure you check out our Linktree link. Again, as all the pertinent details to our merch store, sponsor links, social platforms, and audio platforms. And like Dave said at the top of the hour, at the top of the show, there are some brand new merchandise designs that were very fun to put together. So I hope you guys enjoy them as well.
Do you have any of them loaded? We can show them.
So I can probably pull one up real quick as we
Yeah.
kinda go through this.
I know.
And then, of course, my friend has his shop. So if you want to let them know about that.
So yeah, so I started flipping sports cards about a year ago. It's been very lucrative. Not rich yet. I can't exactly quit my day job, but maybe someday. So I created a coupon for specifically listeners of this channel. So Banter 5 will save you 5% on your order. It can be used on my live streams. There's a catch. You got to spend at least $25 and the cutoff is $100. So saves you a little bit out the door. It helps me out, helps, get me where I want to go. But overall, yeah, our merchandise is fire. Should buy some. Helps us out a lot. And then as a little bit of a teaser, we got our first Patreon guest joining us on June 17th. As we get closer, we will let you guys know who that is. And so we will put out all the information for Patreon so you can subscribe there for a small fee, which will help us bring in bigger and better guests as this thing continues to grow and gets us to where we want to be. So that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna pull this up real quick and we'll show you guys one of the designs that we have up on the site as we continue to build out some new merchandise, some new infrastructure there. You guys want to be able to take a look at that. So one of the designs we have here for our Rockstar Ice Cold Closer, Luke Weaver, definitely take a look at that. There's a few more designs on there as well. So definitely some fun stuff on there. So we got some new things coming as well. So just a little bit of a teaser there for some Yankee captains, and we have some other players as well that we have on the site. So in our Linktree link down in the description, you can check that out and see some of the other things that we have on the site as well.
And we got stuff there for everybody too, even the ladies. We got a whole ladies line, workout gear, all that stuff. So check it out. And before we go, thank you to the 50 people that have been watching us all night. This is the highest amount that we've had since we started this 7 weeks ago. So appreciate all of you. This doesn't happen without you guys watching us. So that's what keeps us coming back.
100%. And as we kind of close out here, I do want to let everybody know that we are looking for post-game reporters for the Baseball Banter broadcast to bring coverage to every team in Major League Baseball. Obviously, we have the Yankees already covered, but if you're a fan of any of the other teams, then definitely you can contact us there. Again, contact.baseballbanterbroadcast@gmail.com. And you can also reach out to us through our social platforms. You can leave us a comment here on YouTube or on X. So once again, we want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. This has been the Pinstripe Plunge Report here on the Baseball Banter broadcast. For Dave, I'm Jeremy, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.